Welcome to Resilience Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Ostrolenk. This show is about building better humans, institutions, and systems. On the show, I'll be interviewing many different experts from across many different fields, including human optimization, health and fitness, team building, mind-body medicine. In the institutional space, we're looking at different institutions and how we can create new ones, new models and maps, including in medicine, in education, in intelligence community, in law enforcement, in the military, especially in the special operations community. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show.
Today's guest is Marc Von Musser, a peak performance strategist, entrepreneur, and leader in heart-driven sales and human optimization. Marc is a co-founder and CEO of Soar and Roar, where he's crafted a transformative approach to sales that honors integrity, authentic connection, and personal growth, helping entrepreneurs and leaders create predictable success without pressure. Mark's work isn't just about revenue. It's about awakening purpose, activating resilience, and aligning personal identity with professional ambition. Today, we'll dig into his journey, his philosophy on human potential, and how he blends strategy with heart to help people live and lead at their highest level, and discuss his latest and newest program. Mark, welcome.
Oh, great to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. We had you on with Nikki to talk about your book that you guys put together this last year. But
Yep.
you have a new program coming out, so I want to give you the opportunity to talk about that. But before we do, who is the great Von Muser? Like, tell me a little bit about your background, your philosophy, and then we can jump into your new program.
Sure. So, I would say it's been an entire journey about self-realization and actualization. So, grew up to alcoholic, amazing parents, but they were hardcore alcoholics. You could even maybe say narcissistic as well. Was dad was a multimillionaire. He was a boy soprano. He was a movie star. He was in 16 different movies. Mom was Miss Norway. Amazing human beings, but they were from the martini cigarette generation, and it was all kids were to be there but not be seen and heard, be there if needed. It was a different world, but I remember because of their dysfunction, it really kicked me out of the nest incredibly early. I remember being fortunate getting my first job by when I was 9, going door to door selling newspaper subscriptions and then delivering them before 5:30 in the morning every day of the year. So we'd have to get up at about 4 in the morning. Dad didn't. We did it by ourselves, my brother and I, and we'd wake up, get our papers. I did the bulk of the selling. Freddie delivered half of them, and I delivered half. But when you're a kid, making that association that, wow, I could work hard and now all of a sudden I could make $30, $50 a month. That was a lot of money. The minimum wage back then was probably $1 an hour. But to be 9 and 10, also, I didn't know how important it was, but developing a work today, it's crazy to think about a 9-year-old and 10-year-old driving the streets on their bike, pitch dark,
Yeah.
no supervision. It's not like nowadays they have parents, if they're doing it with the kids, they're in the car throwing them out the window. Not the same. Rain or shine, so that got me started, and then I found out about candy, and then the school would do fundraisers, and if you sold candy, you got free candy and prizes. Well, that's a given. So through trial and error, I just ended up getting really good at door knocking, going
Mm.
door to door, loving it, and then realizing later that there was a process. Now, unfortunately, over the next 40 years, I studied the process as well and applied it to countless things, but I noticed that it was always about the close and the commission and about you getting what you want. And I realized that the buyer was getting inundated by attacks over their focus and their wallet. And they were getting more and more creative about finding ways to say no and to lie and to create buyer defenses about I'm just looking, I just want to see other things. And what happened was the response by the sales industry was to push even harder, make even
Mm.
more calls. And so over the course of my life, I had a couple of detours here and there, but it was always around human optimization, which is really critical for somebody really doing great in life. And then also sales, which is not just sales, it's actually influence, persuasion, and selling or enrolling in a dream. And so over the course of the last 40 years, we've been refining testing, teaching it, and we found an entirely new way of enrolling people that's different than any of the sales training out there. And ironically, um, it's exponentially more effective because it does not trigger the buyer defenses. It does not trigger that natural pushback about, oh, wow, he's just trying to sell me. And it feels good for all the parties involved. And it's not uncommon to have people doing 30 to 80% enrollment rates using this process with almost 0 to 3% refund or cancel rate. So that's been a lot of fun. Personally as well, I love human optimization.
You
Uh,
do?
yeah. I mean, I'm like a human guinea pig before there was such thing as biohacking. So I really love those things. And whether it's peptides, training methodologies, plyometrics. I remember when I first started plyometrics, I remember I was in a medical library in Kentucky and found a little paper about plyometrics that were just starting training in the US. It was predominantly in the Soviet. So then I started training in that. Next thing you know, I could almost dunk a basketball. So, I mean, things like that, pushing the human evolution, pushing what's possible has always been a passion of mine. Those would be the two big ones. And that's kind of how I got here. I'm blessed with two grown, beautiful human being women. One is a doctor at Loma Linda. She's working on her residency. The other's a phenomenal human being in her own right up in Seattle. She's a writer, works for a financial firm and does their ad copy and does the writing for them and make sure that their writing reflects the not just the product, but actually the benefits and she's elevating that. So she's done phenomenally well. But I'm really proud because they're just great human beings. They're kind, they're generous, they're attentive. So that's been great. So other than that, yeah, I live up in the mountains in Big Bear. My neighbors are coyotes, and I've named my coyotes and my squirrels. It's Glenn and Stacy are my squirrels. You
Awesome.
get to know them. You get to know some of the birds. There's Pigpen, who's a scrub jay, who's just never can seem to get his tail feathers right. They're always all over the place. And then my coyote is Frank. Frank and Sally. They're two of the main coyotes that I see every night. But yeah, I'm blessed and grateful, and just navigating through this thing called life and looking to have as much impact and awaken as many human beings to their greatness that we possibly can.
I want to comment on the impact. You definitely have had an impact on me. I've been blessed to spend a little over a year with you in a different program. And the two things that stand out for me that in my conversations with you, either publicly in the group setting or privately, is the human optimization stuff on the more private setting. To have like a great conversation with you on that stuff,
Yeah.
and you were biohacking before it was biohacking was a cool thing,
Yeah.
which is amazing. You seem to be always on the cutting edge of like how do you optimize the human system, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool. But this conversation is more on the other side of things. Is like the sales based hard approach. Enrolling people in their own dreams
Yes.
I think is so like, what a different paradigm than sell
Yeah.
them shit.
So
Like,
I started to it's a great premise and frame, but I remember thinking to myself when I would read some of the books, and I mean that's what I did for years was obsess. Every dollar I made, I would go out and buy books about every sales book you could find, every human optimization book. I'd go to libraries and get the ones for free. I'd buy used copies. I'd on Craigslist, and before that it was called the Recycler or Penny Saver. I was scouring looking for everything I could. So I've got a gigantic library of optimization and self help and things like that. Now, the difference was I would actually go test it. So I'd
yeah.
read a book, I'd go back through it, post it notes, I'd highlight it, I'd make notes, and then I'd say, okay, well, let's see, is this really work? Does this work? Well, after you do that for a good 10 to 20 years where you're obsessing, you start to notice patterns. Well, this guy learned from that guy. He's just regurgitating that. He's regurgitating that they learned from W. Clement Stone and I started to see all these patterns, but what I was really interested in was, does it work? That was
Mm.
really it. Do I have more energy? Do I have more focus? Can I super learn like Super Learning 2000 by Sheila Ostrander? Great, great book. And then there was also Natural Brilliance by Paul Sheely and photo reading about reading 25,000 words a minute with retention. And then that started me on neurotropics at the very beginning, like the Limitless Pill, the best I'd ever found. I've tried them all. And so I was always looking for, hey, is it possible? And I actually did in the military when I was testing for my E5, I had books about this much books, okay, that thick of every contraindication for every medicine. You can't take it because of this, but you can in this case if these factors are here, and you don't want to do it ever here. Crazy amounts of information, and some of the neurotropics that I actually found, where I was turned on by the head of neurology for the entire Western Seaboard for the Navy, and then a couple of other doctors told me their secret weapon in med school. So I tried it. Sure enough, man, I had a photographic memory. I could not only remember, I could remember on what page I saw the answer. So as
Wow.
the more I did this, and by the way, they said, "Oh, don't even bother taking it because you'd have to ace the exam, and if you ace the exam, they'll investigate you for fraud because there's no way you have to score so high to make rank."
Mhm.
And guess what? I made rank. And they did do a quick guess, and they looked at all my other stuff and they said, no, this guy said have a 99 ASVAB. I had the honor grad at every school I went to. But they did a check to see, was I scamming the system because I scored so high.
That's
I
awesome.
also set the all-time highest record for a Navy Core school. In Navy Core school, I set the record for the highest GPA that they've ever had. Also led the largest Hall of Fame company in naval history with 144 people. Normal was about 40 to 45. Only 72 companies out of 30,000 ever made Hall of Fame, and we were the largest. I was the leader of it. So I was able to take these strategies and apply them. I'm a short guy. I'm 5'7", and I remember before there was Spud Webb, mentally, I didn't play basketball because I was worried that people would make fun because I was so small. But in martial arts, I was fighting at 45 to 55-pound weights. That's how much I weighed, and I was fighting high school unlimited, and I was undefeated. And I always I set the records in strength. For example, in college, I set the records for my weight class with a 150-pound dumbbell press, a 315-pound military press. My bench press was 405, and that was
Wow.
all natural. And so I would test this stuff, and then I'd go out and see, does it really work? And over the years, you see a lot of the stuff works, but a lot of the stuff is just regurgitated hype that the sales pitch is better. That's the same thing I noticed with sales. All of these sales systems were predominantly outdated. They were focusing predominantly on more pressure, more posture. You need to be more alpha. You
Yeah.
need to be more this, hammer features and benefits, belittle the other guy. And you saw Jordan Belfort as an example. I remember he gets on the phone, and there was another guy too, as Grant, and he gets on the phone and hand me the phone. His sales team's making the calls, right? They're on the cell phone room, right? Or the room. Give me the phone. He picks up the phone like this and goes, are you a man or a mouse? Put your right hand in your pocket, your left hand in your left pocket. Shake hands. Is there anything there? Quit wasting my team's time. You're either going to be a millionaire or be broke. So give me your credit card or quit wasting our time. You ready to be rich? Hands the guy the
Wow.
phone. And right. And all of a sudden it's like, that's how you do it, gentlemen. Well, what you didn't know was the guy was in the other room. It was not a real call. And they do stuff like that all the time. And I bought it all. And then I'd go test it. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why are people not doing this? And over the years, out of everything I did, I'd find a nugget that worked, and then created a system, which was ironically how I like to be treated. And when I'd speak to people, I'd ask them, I'd go to speak at a group, 1,000, 2,000 people, and I'd say, when you think of sales and selling, by a show of hands, I want you to shout out some answers. And they all said slimy, lack of professionalism, manipulative, liars, scumbags. I mean, it was all derogatory terms about 98% of the time. It did not matter where in the world I was speaking. That's what came back. And then when I did that, the only exception were those wannabe sales guys who wanted to be like, I'm a salesman, I'm a closer. They're not a salesman, they're a closer. And so then they live in that identity where they celebrate and high five when you took money from somebody and she didn't know what it was because you got
Mhm.
the credit card. That's the win. And it just didn't feel right. And when I started to notice that everyone wants to buy, but they have all these defenses in front of them, but what they're lacking is what I realized is the secret. And that's to create an advocacy identity. When I'd
Hmm.
ask the same group, how do you feel when you're working with an expert or an advocate or somebody that's going to support you and champion you? Everybody goes empowered, seen, trusting. And I was like, wow, could it really be that much of a difference? And it really is. So first we have to integrate an advocacy and purpose driven. And there's three sections: mindset, heart set, and skill set.
Nice.
All the sales training out there is simply skill set. Here's Grant Cardone's 154 memorized closes.
Mhm.
Now, in reality, there's only one objection. Will it work for me? That's the truth. Everything else has three faces: partner, spouse. I need to talk to my partner. I need to talk to my illusionary financial guy. Number two was I need to think about it. I need more information. That's the second one because they don't have enough certainty that this is going to work. And then number three, I can't afford it, the value, right? So, but they all go up to the one, which is, will it work for me?
Mhm.
And I started recognizing that if I show up as an advocate and I'm really there to do what's right by the client, get to the truth of their problems. What are the consequences of those problems? And then make a determination, are we a good fit to work together? And then lastly, it's like, here's how we can solve that problem. Now, here's what happened. Over the course of several thousand people, we refined it and trained it. We did well over $1 billion in high ticket sales with less than a 5% cancellation rate. Now, the industry norm is a 4 to 8% enrollment rate with a 40% cancellation rate. That's the typical high ticket sales numbers. We got ours on our team up to 38% with a 3% enrollment cancellation. And those were people we decided you're not a fit when you got in and weren't doing the work. So we were giving them, but the majority of people, they're loving it. And then we taught it to people who'd never sold before. Grandparents. One of my favorite was Dr. Deb. She was a 75-year-old. I don't know if it's Hasidic Jew, but she was the kind where you can't touch them. Totally respectful. Love this woman. Beautiful little lady. She's well into her 70s. She was a licensed therapist, and she's like, Mark, I have to tell you, but it's almost getting boring because I haven't had an objection in 2 months. And I mean, I'm even giving them objections and they just want to buy, they just want help. And I start laughing. So she had just this, now she's not my energy. And it worked even for somebody that was quiet because she was not trying to hammer or close anybody. She was trying to add value and help them solve their problem. So I created a system which is called the iCare system, which is really about heart-driven selling and about truly embodying that heart-driven process, which has exponentially higher enrollment rates, but it also feels good. It feels good for me, feels good for the people doing it, and the clients as well. And unlike regular sales, the difference is I get thank you emails all the time saying, thank you for helping me with this. Oh my God, I can't. Here's my friend. He needs help too. And so it just shifted and turned on a dime once I figured out that people have these, what I call buyer defenses up. And their resistance is based in a trust deficit, and they also are lacking certainty, clarity, or caring. So if I can give them that, your enrollment rates will go through the roof. And that's what we're doing. We're going to be training on this on the foundation on early February on what I call transform your sales in 3 days. And we're going to show you the format and the foundation, and we're going to walk people through. Doesn't matter what you're selling, right? This works for car sales. This works door to door. This works for coaching and therapy. This works for pretty much anything. What the criteria is, you have to truly decide you want to make a difference and you really care about your client. The second thing is you have to have the integrity and skill set to know, how do I determine whether, Michael, you and I are a fit to work together? If I determine that you're not committed or you're not the right person for me, then my ethical duty is not to take your money, but steer you and help you with somebody else that will. It sounds counterintuitive to typical sales where it's just get the credit card. But what happens though is that now it's like sending a broadcasting to the universe that I'm really the guy that's going to help you determine. And it's like a gate guard. Hey, you need to go here. You should go here. And what I noticed was my and every one of our clients, their enrollment went through the roof when we started truly serving, but you can't fake it.
Now, is this a virtual program? And you said it's over a 3-day period of time in February?
Yes. And so it's a whole lot of fun too, because that's another thing I noticed too. Um, People hate sales, but they love helping people and they love enrolling. And it's so much fun. When you have fun at something, you're 12 times more likely to remember the information and actually be able to apply it. And when I ask people, again, one of the first things I teach them is right out of the bat, stop selling entirely. Just quit thinking of yourself as a closer, stop selling, and instead start enrolling people in their dreams. That's a whole lot easier than closing, trust me. And so at the end of the day, when you can do that, we're going to map it out and show you how I've done this with over 5,000 businesses and how to simplify it down. So whether the other part, which is so great, whether I'm standing in front of a room of 3,000, 5,000 people speaking, whether it's a room with 300, whether it's one-on-one with a person, whether I'm at a Starbucks just having a conversation, you always know how to move the person into the truth. And that truth might mean sometimes I'm not your best fit right now.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I had somebody that was in Amway, and Amway was not really, they didn't need my program to go ahead and do Amway, right? So, but I honored that they went through the funnel, they got on our calendar, and we even say, hey, if this is a multi-level, it's not really a fit. but they got on the calendar anyway. So we spent an hour and I basically walked them through how to become a diamond in Amway. And I told them to get in your upline's back pocket, read whatever books they tell you to read, do whatever they tell you to do, and every day check in with them. Trust me when I tell you, they will do that and coach you accordingly. But you don't need to go pay for outside training right now. First, go into your upline and find out how they got to where they are. And all of a sudden, it's like people would come in, and next thing you know, they were having success, even in something with an MLM, which has a very low success rate. I love them when they're done properly, but most of them, they flame out pretty quick.
Yeah. So people listening to this and they want to know more about that, your program in February, the 3-day, and or just generally other things that you do, more information about you. How do they go about finding Marc Von Musser?
It's a great question. So I just messed that up. So let me go ahead and I'll read them to you because it's a little easier. First off is for the event,
Yeah.
it's www.soarandroar.com/7.
Nice.
Okay. So that's going to be for the event. And then bear with me, my eyesight's not great with looking at blue light all day.
Yeah, I hear you.
So the other one is you can find me at soarandroar.com. And that's the A-N-D, not the ampersand. So it's Soar and Roar. And I believe marcvonmusser.com will be back up as well. We're transitioning away from one platform to another. So some of these are in the process, but those are the best ways. You can find me anywhere on social media.
Yeah.
The process is called the iCare system, but that's we train through that in a program called Sales Alchemy. And Sales Alchemy is we customize everything from your structure of your calls to your pitch. If you have to go on stage, how to do a powerful presentation. If it's one-on-one, we map you through that. We coach you. We do call reviews. We break down calls so you understand what a great call is and where you missed it.
Yeah.
So we fast track people to start enrolling at ridiculously high rates, providing that they really care and they're going to add value to their client.
I love that. I'll make sure to include all that in the show notes. And I really want to encourage anyone who's involved in sales, whether, as you said, selling cars, selling coaching programs, whatever it is, they really should check you out and check out this program. I've had amazing learnings, success, changes in my own mind around this stuff. I love your approach.
Yeah.
So anyone who's involved in that space really, really should check you out, Marc. And I appreciate your time in this conversation, sharing your program and your philosophy.
Thanks for having me on. The big part in closing on this is I wanted people to realize you don't have to do the manipulation, pressure, close, lie. You're actually more effective if you don't. You're more effective if you actually own your greatness, step into that greatness, know why you're doing it, know what you can offer and what you can't. And then from a place of integrity and service, you go and go actually help people. It makes you excited to do the calls. And ironically, I'm a pragmatist, but it's more effective than anything on the market.
Right on. Thank you, Marc.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.